My stepmother used the technique of framing me for stealing in order to coerce my father into cutting me off. I brought evidence of her falsehoods to their wedding, and as a result, our family is currently in a state of disarray. My name is Ava, and I am 26 years old. I just caused a significant amount of drama at my father Mark's wedding to my stepmother Rachel, who is 48 years old. Please be patient with me while I explain this lengthy and intricate story. After a protracted struggle against cancer, my mother went away when I was 8 years old with the disease. This was a terrible experience for both my father and me. The two of us were the only ones who were attempting to navigate life without her for a number of years. We developed a very strong bond during that period of time. Despite the fact that he frequently put in long hours to provide for my family and me, my father never missed any of the significant milestones in my life. He devoted himself completely to his work and to raising me. Some of the most vivid memories I have of him include him learning how to braid my hair for school, him destroying many dinners in his attempt to become a master chef, and him staying up late to assist me with my science fair projects. His goal was to fulfill the roles of both mother and father to me, and he was successful in doing so for the most part. Despite the challenges we faced, we never failed to support and care for one another. When I was 17 years old, my father began working with Rachel. At his company, she had just started working as a marketing executive. Approximately 6 months later, they began dating each other. At first, I was glad for my father, but I said it with caution. This was the first time in years that he appeared to be lighter and more relaxed. On the other hand, as time went on, I began to have a negative suspicion toward Rachel. When my father was not present, she usually had a very frigid attitude toward me. She would tell me that I wasn't truly a part of their new family, and she would make subtle digs about it. When I came home from college for the summer, I overheard her telling my father that perhaps it was time for me to acquire my own place so that they could begin their life together in a more appropriate manner. In response to my questioning her about it, she denied ever having said anything and accused me of listening in on her conversation. And in every instance in which I attempted to discuss Rachel's behavior with my father, she would reframe the situation in such a way as to make it appear as though I was merely acting as a jealous and troublesome daughter. She would cry and tell my father how much she was trying to form a connection with me, but that I seemed to be preventing her from doing so. The fact that it was completely false made it extremely frustrating. Rachel built a wedge between my father and me throughout the years, which resulted in my relationship with my father being increasingly strained. During the times when my father was not present, she would inform him that I had treated her with disdain. It was her assertion that I was ungrateful for everything she had done for our family. There was no truth to any of it, yet my father never failed to support her. There was a particularly painful experience that occurred when I was 21 years old. For my father's birthday, I had prepared a special camping trip for us to go on together, exactly like we used to do when I was a kid. I set aside a significant amount of time to plan it, save money for new camping equipment, and even take some time off from work. My father was taken aback when Rachel surprised him with tickets to a luxurious spa weekend 2 days before we were scheduled to go. As soon as I became agitated, she accused me of being self-centered and of attempting to take up all of my father's time. Because my father ended up going to the spa with her, our planned camping trip was never able to take place. Around 2 months ago, things reached a point of no return. I was suspected of stealing an expensive diamond necklace from Rachel's jewelry box, and she accused me of doing so. The news stunned me. Something like that is not something I would ever do. Rachel, on the other hand, put on a dramatic display of her agony at the prospect of my betraying her confidence. It was a family artifact that had been passed down from her grandmother, and she shed tears over it. I was the source of my father's rage. The statement that he was embarrassed by my actions and that I needed to apologize and return the jewelry as soon as possible was made by him. Despite my best efforts, neither of them would listen to me when I tried to explain that I hadn't taken anything. Regarding how hurt she was, Rachel continued to cry out in a theatrical manner. I was instructed by my father to leave his home and to refrain from returning until I was prepared to acknowledge the wrongdoings I had committed and to make atonement. My heart was broken. If there was no evidence to support my claim, I couldn't think that my own father would believe Rachel over me. During the subsequent couple of months, I did not communicate with either my father or Rachel. That my father had chosen Rachel above me caused me a great deal of pain and anger. I was unable to tolerate the silence of my empty apartment, so I immersed myself into my work as a diversion. I frequently stayed at the office until late at night because I couldn't handle the silence. Despite the fact that my friends made an effort to cheer me up, I got the impression that I had lost the only real family I had left. While this was going on, they continued to make preparations for their wedding. However, I was not invited to the event. The information that it was going to be a spectacular event at an expensive vineyard was passed on to me by friends that we both have. In spite of the fact that my father had always been more economical, it appears that Rachel had insisted on leaving no expense unaccounted for. When I thought of him rejoicing without me there, it pained my heart. My stepsister Emma, who is 17 years old, paid me an unannounced visit the day before the wedding. Emma is Rachel's daughter from a prior relationship. Even though we have never been particularly close to one another, we have always been friendly toward one another. Emma was born to Rachel when she was very young, and she raised her as a single mother for a number of years before she introduced herself to my father. Upon her arrival at my apartment, Emma appeared to be in a state of extreme distress. The appearance of her eyes was red and puffy, as if she had been sobbing. She told me that she had overheard Rachel talking on the phone with another person about how she had placed the necklace in my purse in order to try to frame me for the crime. It would appear that Rachel desired to remove me from the picture in order to have possession of my father solely for herself. Emma felt horrible for not saying anything sooner, but she wasn't able to do so because she was terrified of how her mother would respond. I was informed by her that Rachel had always been manipulative and controlling, but that her behavior had become even more pronounced ever since she began dating my father. Emma stated that she could no longer remain a bystander, so that Rachel could continue to rip our family apart. As soon as I heard this, I fell into a rage. Rachel was not only responsible for framing me, but she was also the one who coerced my father into removing me from his life. It was as if all of those years of making subtle jabs and comments that were passive hostile suddenly made sense. Over the course of time, Rachel had been playing the long game, gradually separating my father and me. In order to expose what Rachel had done, Emma implored me to attend the wedding and confront her. In the beginning, I was apprehensive. Since my father had already been harmed, I didn't want to make a scene or bring him any more pain than he already had. But as I continued to reflect about the matter, I became increasingly certain that my father had a right to be informed of the truth before he married this woman. Exactly before the ceremony was about to begin the following day, Emma and I arrived at the location where the wedding was going to take place. When the visitors spotted me there wearing jeans and a t-shirt, they immediately let out a gasp. This was a striking contrast to the sea of fancy dresses and suits that were present. When Rachel turned around and saw me heading down the aisle, her face turned completely white. When I arrived, my father and Rachel were standing at the altar, and I marched right up to them. My dad appeared to be taken aback when he saw me there. I communicated everything to him before he had a chance to say anything. How Rachel had framed me for stealing the necklace, how she had been manipulating him for years, and how Emma had overheard her admitting to all of this while she was on the phone. Rachel began to scream that I was lying, but Emma stepped in and validated my tale. Rachel's complaints were ignored. The incriminating phone call that Rachel made was even recorded on her phone, which she carried on her person. While my father was listening to the audio of Rachel laughing about how simple it had been to frame me, he appeared to be in a state of complete and utter shock. Everyone in attendance at the wedding was muttering in disbelief. Rachel's relatives appeared to be in utter disbelief. My father's face was the color of blood. Whether it was out of wrath or shame, I was unable to determine. Inquiring about the veracity of the statement, he turned to Rachel. She began to cry and make explanations, but it was obvious that she had been caught. She fell into sobs. Instantaneously, my father decided to call off the wedding. Rachel wept uncontrollably as she sprinted out of the venue, leaving her white dress trailing behind her. All of the guests were engaged in a lively conversation. Simply standing there, my father appeared to be in utter disbelief and humiliation. It made me feel a little guilty that I had ruined his wedding day. But at the same time, I believed that he needed to be aware of the reality before he made a significant error. Emma expressed her gratitude to me for revealing the lies that her mother had been telling. She stated that she was relieved that she would no longer have to put up with Rachel's psychological manipulation. It had been a week since the disastrous wedding that occurred. It has not yet been communicated to me by my father. It is unclear to me whether he is upset with me because of the way I handled the situation, or whether he is simply processing all that took place. Because I humiliated him in front of other people, I have a part of me that feels responsible. But there is another part of me that believes he should have been forced to deal with the consequences of his decision to prioritize Rachel over me all these years. Reddit, thank you for bringing to light the falsehoods and infidelity that my stepmother had committed at my father's wedding. When I told my father the truth, should I have chosen a method to do it that was less dramatic? I have mixed feelings regarding the way I deal with situations. As of right now, it has been around 1 month since the wedding disaster, and I would like to provide an update on the current situation. A week ago, my father made the effort to get in touch with me. In order to discuss the matter, he requested that we get together for a cup of coffee. Even though I was anxious, I decided to go visit him. It was a neutral ground for both of us, so we decided to meet at a little cafe. close to my flat. My father's appearance left me speechless when I first laid eyes on him. It appeared as though he had aged years in the span of just 1 month. He appeared to have dropped a considerable amount of weight, as evidenced by the dark bags that appeared under his eyes and the fact that his garments were hanging loosely on his frame. In the beginning, he expressed his deepest regret for not believing me when I told him about Rachel. After falling for her deception for such a long time, he expressed that he felt like a total and utter idiot. It would appear that after the wedding he did some digging and discovered even more of Rachel's lies. Throughout their relationship, she had been unfaithful to him by having affairs with a number of other men. In addition to that, she had been stealing money from his accounts and racking up large amounts of credit card debt in his name. The fact that she had been using his money to fuel her gambling addiction was something that he learnt about her. As he was explaining everything to me, my father broke down in tears. The sight of him in such a vulnerable state was disconcerting. It was a source of embarrassment for him to admit that he had chosen Rachel above his own daughter. He pleaded with me to forgive him and asked if we could make an effort to rectify the situation in our relationship. Immediately, there was a part of me that wanted to forgive him. It was difficult to witness my strong and stoic father in such a state of disarray, but another part of me was still resentful of the ease with which he had abandoned me. In spite of the fact that I was grateful for his apology, I informed him that I required some time to contemplate everything before I could even consider making amends. We went on to converse for a couple of hours, trying to get caught up on all that had occurred over the course of the previous few months. By the time it was over, the dynamic between us had become somewhat less strained. In an effort to re-establish our connection, we have decided to maintain communication and to do things at a leisurely pace. When it comes to Rachel, it appears that she departed town not long after the wedding celebration. No one has been able to locate her since then. He is working with his attorney to unravel their financial situation and protect himself from any further schemes that she may devise, according to my father. In addition to that, he is pursuing legal action for the theft and fraud. It has been since the wedding that Emma has been staying with me. For the time being, she does not wish to have any interaction with her mother. In reality, over the course of the past month, we have become rather close. Being able to chat to and hang out with a sister is a wonderful experience. More information regarding Emma's life with Rachel over the years was shared with me by Emma. It would appear that Rachel was on the same level of manipulative and emotionally abusive behavior with Emma as she was toward me. She would continually belittle Emma, insult her appearance, and compare her to other girls her age in a manner that was unfavorable. When Emma was around her mother, she remarked that she constantly had the feeling that she was walking on eggshells. One of the most terrifying stories that Emma related was about her 16th birthday, which occurred the previous year. Rachel had assured her that she would give her a large party with all of her close friends. Emma was so thrilled that she spent weeks making preparations for it. Rachel made the announcement on the day of the celebration that she would be taking a trip to Las Vegas with her friends at the very last minute. With no party and no explanation, she abandoned Emma to her own devices. Emma attempted to approach Rachel about it at a later time, but Rachel gaslighted her by claiming that they had never even considered the possibility of attending a party. It makes me feel terrible that Emma had to endure that poisonous atmosphere for such a long period of time. In an effort to enhance her self-assurance and demonstrate to her what a healthy and supportive relationship looks like, I have been doing everything in my power. During the past month, she has made significant progress, despite being removed from Rachel's influence. Both my father and Emma have indicated an interest in getting back in touch with each other. The fact that he failed to recognize how Rachel was treating her is a source of shame for him. However, Emma is open to the idea of getting to know my dad better, despite her initial reluctance. The few phone calls that they have had appear to have gone off without a hitch. In general, I have a cautiously hopeful outlook regarding the future of our little family that we have become. Although it will take some time to heal all of the scars, I believe that we are heading in the right direction. Even though my methods were a little bit extreme, I am proud of myself for going against Rachel's lies and sticking up for myself. In certain circumstances, it is necessary to reveal the truth, regardless of how messy it may be. This is the second update. Since my last update, which was approximately 3 months ago, a great deal of things have transpired in that span of time. The quality of my relationship with my father has gradually but consistently improved. To discuss the situation, we have been getting together on a regular basis for either coffee or dinner. He has been attending therapy sessions in order to work on his problems, and he has made a lot of headway in comprehending the reasons why he allowed Rachel to control him for such a long period of time. His acts throughout the years have caused me a great deal of pain, and I have shared my feelings with him. I believe that bringing things out into the open has been therapeutic for both of us, despite the fact that it has not been that simple. Although we have not yet returned to the state in which we were before Rachel entered the scene, I believe that we will eventually arrive at that point. The camping trip that I had planned for almost a decade finally took place last week with my family. It had a bittersweet taste, but it was also therapeutic. Over the course of several hours, we gathered around the campfire and reminisced about our mother and the wonderful times we had together as a family. I felt as though I had my father back for the first time in what seemed like years. Emma is still prospering and she continues to live with me. The past several months have seen her break out of her shell in a significant way. Upon joining the school's drama club, she was offered the role of the lead in the spring play. It has been incredible to witness her grow in self-assurance. Even more impressive is the fact that she has begun discussing her intentions for college, which Rachel has always opposed. The sudden reappearance of Rachel a month ago caused a little bit of a commotion in our lives. Unannounced, she showed up at my flat looking for Emma and demanding to see her. She was obviously under the influence of alcohol, and she grew hostile when I refused to let her in. At that moment, Rachel began yelling about how we had ruined her life and taken her family away from her. She threatened to file a lawsuit about Emma's custody and to take her away to a place where we would never find her again. Rachel was pounding on the door of Emma's room as she hid in her chamber, which was filled with fear. In the end, I was forced to have to call the police in order to remove Rachel from the premises. I am relieved that I was able to maintain my composure and safeguard Emma, despite the terrifying circumstances. We were able to file a report with the assistance of the policemen that responded that were very understanding. The entire event left Emma feeling quite disturbed up and apprehensive. The next days were filled with nightmares for her. Since then, we have taken the necessary steps to urge Rachel to stay away from both of us by obtaining a restraining order. The hearing in court is scheduled for the following month, and although I am anxious, I am hopeful that it will be granted. As soon as my father learned about Rachel's pranks, he cops to remove Rachel. I am relieved that I kept my cool and protected Emma despite the scary circumstances. We filed a report with the understanding policeman who responded. Emma felt upset and nervous throughout the event. She had nightmares the following days. Since then, we've obtained a restraining order to keep Rachel away from us. I am concerned about the court hearing next month, but I hope it will be approved. After learning about Rachel's pranks, my father became extremely angry. In an effort to safeguard Emma from Rachel's future efforts to reclaim custody of her child, he has been investigating various legal alternatives. Emma has made it abundantly obvious that she does not wish to have any interaction with her mother yet. We want to be certain that all of our legal bases are covered. In a more positive development, Emma and I have officially initiated the process that will allow me to become her legal guardian. Even though it is a significant step, we are both quite excited about it. Emma has expressed that she now feels as though she is a member of a true family with me. I shed tears of joy on the day that she asked me whether she might refer to me as her sister rather than her stepsister. My father has displayed a positive attitude toward thee and became furious. He is exploring legal options to protect Emma from Rachel's future custody claims. Emma has made it clear that she does not want to see her mother, but we want to cover all legal grounds. Better news, Emma and I have started the legal guardianship process. It's a big step, but we're excited. Emma says she feels like family with me. I was overjoyed when she requested if she may call me sister instead than stepsister. My father is optimistic about the guardianship process. He is willing to provide Emma with financial assistance in order to guarantee that she has everything she requires. Seeing him take responsibility and make an effort to make amends is quite encouraging. Additionally, he has been spending more time with Emma, taking her to the movies and assisting her with the applications she is submitting to colleges. During the process of adjusting to our new family dynamic, my family and I have encountered a few difficult situations. Following Rachel's reappearance, Emma's struggles with feelings of abandonment became more apparent. Despite the fact, guardianship process. He will help Emma financially so she gets everything she needs. Being accountable and trying to make apologies is uplifting. He has also been taking Emma to movies and helping her with college applications. My family and I have had some tough times adjusting to our new family dynamic. Emma's abandonment issues were more apparent after Rachel's return. Even though that my father and I still experience periods of friction whenever past hurts come back to the surface, we are all dedicated to succeeding in our endeavor and supporting one another. After some reflection, I do not feel any guilt over exposing Rachel's lies during the wedding. Even though it was a dramatic event, it was necessary for it to take place. There is that my father and I still fight when past hurts resurface. We are all committed to success and supporting each other. After thinking, I don't feel guilty about exposing Rachel's wedding lies. Even though it was dramatic, it was essential. There is no way to tell how much more harm she could have caused if she had truly married my father. Although it is unfortunate that my father and Emma had to endure such a great deal of suffering, I believe that we are all stronger as a result of having weathered this storm together. I am pleased with how far we have all progressed in such a short period of time. Although there is still a lot of work to be done, I have a positive outlook on the future. As we take things one day at a time, Our primary focus is on mending wounds and re-establishing trust. Although it is not always simple, it is well worth it to have my family back in my life. No way to know how much more harm she could have done if she married my father. I'm sorry my father and Emma had to suffer so much, but I think we're stronger for having survived. I'm thrilled with our rapid progress. Despite the labor ahead, I'm optimistic. We focus on healing wounds and re-establishing trust day by day. Despite the challenges, having my family back is worth it.